So you're listening to Holy Sync Radio Podcast. Today's podcast, Wisdom Isn't Optional, It's Survival.
Welcome back to Holy Sync Radio, where we learn to tune out the noise of the world and tune into what's real, what's true. I'm Thomas, and I'm here with Nilsa. And today we're talking about something that most people overlook until it's too late.
And this one came out of something real. 3 months of living in the book of Proverbs will do something to you.
It really will. But before we get into it, let me start with something that might surprise you. Most people don't have a motivation problem. They have a wisdom problem, because you can have passion, you can have talent, you can even have opportunity sitting right in front of you. But if you don't have wisdom, you will sabotage every single one of those. Not because you're a bad person, not because you don't care, but because passion without wisdom is just energy with no direction. And energy with no direction eventually destroys the very thing you were trying to build. That's why Proverbs matters more than most people realize. It's not just ancient advice. It's a survival guide for real life. And I'll be real with you. I didn't start posting Proverbs of the day because I had it all figured out. I started posting them because I needed them. Every single time I went to post one, it stopped me. It forced me to slow down and ask myself, did you even read this today? Did you actually live this? Or are you just putting it out there? It became a checkpoint for me. Not content, correction. Not something to give away, something I needed to receive first.
And I think that's what made it feel different. Because it wasn't just something we were putting out, it was something we were sitting in.
There were days where a verse would hit and I'd have to just stop. Like, it was less about what I was going to post and more about what God was trying to say to me in that moment, slowing me down, correcting something in my attitude before I even realized my attitude needed correcting. And when you really think about the source of this book, King Solomon, the one who wrote most of Proverbs, was known as the wisest man to ever live. And what's remarkable is how he got there. God came to him and said, ask for whatever you want. And Solomon didn't ask for money, didn't ask for power, didn't ask for long life or the defeat of his enemies. He asked for wisdom, specifically wisdom to lead God's people well. And because of that one request, everything else followed. The wealth, the influence, the legacy, all of it came behind the wisdom. Solomon didn't chase success, he chased wisdom, and success chased him. That's not a prosperity gospel moment. That's a principle. When you pursue what actually matters, the rest has a way of lining up behind it. So over these last 3 months, we didn't just read Proverbs, we lived in it. And what we realized pretty quickly is this: Proverbs doesn't just inspire you, it exposes you. It gets in between what you think you believe and how you actually live. And sometimes that gap is uncomfortable. But that discomfort, that's not punishment. That's growth trying to happen.
Proverbs 4:23 says, guard your heart above all else, because everything flows from it. That's not just a suggestion, that's a warning. Because your life isn't built from your calendar, or your schedule, or your to-do list. It's built from your heart. What's happening in there eventually shows up out here. In your decisions, your relationships, your reactions, the ceiling you put on your own life without realizing you're doing it.
People spend years trying to fix habits without ever dealing with what's driving them.
Exactly. You can manage behavior all day long, but if the heart doesn't change, the behavior always comes back. You're just rearranging things on the surface.
Trust in the Lord with all your heart and lean not on your own understanding.
That's Proverbs 3:5. That one is harder than it sounds, because what feels right in the moment isn't always right long term. And we live in a culture that tells you to trust your gut, follow your heart, do what feels true to you.
But feelings are not always facts, and your understanding, as smart as you are, is still limited. There are things you cannot see from where you're standing. Wisdom says, trust the one who can see the whole picture, even when your view is partial.
Proverbs 18:21. Life and death are in the power of the tongue.
That hit different doing this podcast, because it made me realize what we say carries weight. Every single episode, every conversation, every word spoken into someone's life either builds something or tears something down. There's no neutral ground there.
Proverbs 17:14 says, starting a quarrel is like breaching a dam. Not everything needs a response. And that's hard because everything in us wants to respond, especially when we feel like we're right. But wisdom knows when to speak and when to let it go. It is to one's honor to avoid strife.
That's Proverbs 20, verse 3. Exactly the opposite of everything culture is telling us right now. Everything is reaction. Everything is clap back, respond, defend yourself, don't let anyone get away with anything.
But wisdom says sometimes the strongest thing you can do is walk away, not because you lost, because you're too focused on where you're going to get pulled into something that was never going to take you there.
There's a verse from 1 Corinthians that hit me right in the middle of all this. Knowledge puffs up, but love builds up. And that challenged me because you can read Proverbs every single day. You can gain knowledge. You can get really good at quoting the right verse at the right moment. But if that knowledge doesn't change how you treat people, it's just making you feel smarter, not better, not wiser, just smarter. Real wisdom doesn't make you look down on people. It makes you show up for them better. It makes you more patient, more understanding, more willing to sit with someone in their mess instead of throwing answers at them from a distance.
Wisdom isn't just what you know, it's how you live and how you love people.
Something else started coming into focus during these 3 months. We don't understand everything right away. And that's actually by design.
Proverbs 25:2 tells us that God conceals things, and it's our responsibility to search them out. He doesn't hide truth to frustrate us, He hides it to invite us into the search. Because the search is where the relationship deepens.
There's a quote from A.W. Tozer that stopped me cold. How tragic that we, in this dark day, have had our seeking done for us by our teachers. That's convicting because we're not searching anymore. We're consuming. We hear something from someone we trust and we repeat it. We see something on social media that sounds spiritual and we share it without ever sitting down and asking, is this actually true? Did I actually verify this? Did I find this myself or did I just inherit it?
Proverbs 2, verse 4 says, Search for wisdom like silver, seek it like hidden treasure. That's not passive, that's active, that's intentional. That's someone who decides, I'm going to find this for myself, not because I don't trust anyone else, but because borrowed truth won't sustain me when life gets hard. I have to discover it for myself. That's active, that's intentional. That's someone who decides, I'm going to find this for myself, not because I don't trust anyone else, but because borrowed truth won't sustain me when life gets hard. I have to discover it for myself. God doesn't hide truth from us, He hides it for us. So we learn how to seek Him in the process. He hides it for us. So we learn how to seek Him in the process.
I see this playing out even with our grandson, Paxton. He's only 10, but he's sharp. We'll be in a conversation and he'll say, well, that's what Google says. And I had to stop him. I said, did you actually research that? Did you check other sources? Did you read more than one thing before you decided that was true? Or are you just repeating what you heard? I said, did you actually research that? Did you check other sources? Did you read more than one thing before you decided that was true? Or are you just repeating what you heard? Because that's the world we're living in. Everyone has access to more information than any generation before us, and we're somehow less equipped to think critically about it. We just receive and repeat. Everyone has access to more information than any generation before us, and we're somehow less equipped to think critically about it. We just receive and repeat, and I don't want that for him. And honestly, I don't want that for us either. You have to learn how to search for truth yourself. You have to be willing to sit with a question long enough to actually find an answer, instead of grabbing the first thing that sounds right and running with it. Borrowed truth won't sustain you. You have to discover it for yourself.
And this is where the beauty of a real relationship with Christ comes in. Because religion says, follow these rules, do this, don't do that, check the boxes, show up on Sunday, look the part. Follow these rules. Do this, don't do that. Check the boxes, show up on Sunday, look the part. But a relationship is different. A relationship makes you want to know more. Not because you have to, because you want to. Think about any relationship that actually matters to you. You want to know how that person thinks, why they do what they do, what makes them laugh, what they care about. You want to grow in that connection because the connection itself means something to you. That's what it's supposed to be like with God. You don't stop seeking, you don't stop asking, you don't stop growing because you're not just following a set of rules, you're pursuing a person. And when you stop seeking, the relationship starts to feel like religion again, obligation instead of connection, performance instead of presence.
And then life hits loss, pain, confusion, something you didn't see coming and couldn't have prepared for. And in those moments, seeking feels impossible because you're not looking for treasure anymore. You're just trying to survive. But here's what I've learned. And this is something I had to sit with for a long time before I actually believed it. And this is something I had to sit with for a long time before I actually believed it. Life is full of paradoxes. And the greatest paradox of all is this: death leading to life. Jesus had to die so we could live. That's not just theology. That's the pattern God uses over and over again throughout Scripture and throughout our lives. The thing that feels like an ending is often the beginning of something you couldn't have reached any other way. The loss that broke you open made room for something that couldn't fit before. The season that felt like it was destroying you was actually dismantling something that needed to go.
And that's the hardest part. Because when you're in the middle of it, you can't see that yet. All you feel is the death side of the paradox.
Exactly. And that's where people get stuck. They go through something hard and they stay on the painful side of it. They make a home there. They let it define them. They stop seeking because what's the point? Look at what happened. They go through something hard and they stay on the painful side of it. They make a home there. They let it define them. They stop seeking because what's the point? Look at what happened. But if you keep seeking, even when it's hard, even when it doesn't make sense, you'll start to see the other side of that paradox. Don't get stuck on the negative side of your paradox, because every hard season has another side, but you won't find it if you stop seeking in the middle of it. But you won't find it if you stop seeking in the middle of it.
The other side is there. It's waiting. But wisdom is what keeps you moving toward it when everything in you wants to stop.
And honestly, this is how we approach everything we do here at Holy Sync Radio. This is how we approach everything we do here at Holy Sync Radio. This isn't just content, this is stewardship.
God trusted us with a platform. God trusted us with people who are actually listening. And if we're going to speak into someone's life, we have to be rooted in wisdom ourselves. We have to be seeking. We have to be sitting in the Word, not just pulling from it for something to say. God trusted us with people who are actually listening. And if we're going to speak into someone's life, we have to be rooted in wisdom ourselves. We have to be seeking. We have to be sitting in the Word, not just pulling from it for something to say. Because if we're not, we're just adding more noise. And the world already has enough of that. We don't just want to put something out that sounds good.
We want to build something that actually helps people live better, think clearer, love deeper, seek harder. And before I can do any of that for anyone else, I have to let God do it in me first. So our prayer is simple. God, give us the wisdom to serve people better, to meet them where they are, to be a light in their darkest moments, and to never mistake knowledge for wisdom or noise for truth. Because at the end of the day, you don't need more content. You need wisdom. And if you get wisdom right, everything else in your life starts to line up behind it.
This is Holy Sync Radio. Thank you for spending your time with us today. If this encouraged you, share it with someone who needs it. New episodes drop every Saturday. You can find us at holysyncradio.com and on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, YouTube, Facebook, and Instagram. Also available on the Apple app for download. You can find us at holysyncradio.com and on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, YouTube, Facebook, and Instagram. Also available on the Apple app for download. Until next time, keep your heart soft and stay in sync.
And remember, God loves you.